Sorry?
You said I'm the first teacher to do it today, or I'm not the first?
You're the first.
Oh, I am the first. Okay.
So I'll just sort of like a warm just to see how the thing works for later on today.
Got you. Okay. Cool. Well, if you're looking at the live stream right now, if anybody's on the live stream, there is one person in the Google Meets. It's just me and Jesus, and that's it. So if you'd like to join in and see my handsome face instead of just my screen, you should join the Google Meets at Tonner Chorus. Now let's see, is anybody going to watch the live stream? Keep an eye on that. Yeah, I like Zoom better, but I'm new to Google Meets as well. So, so far though, I don't know. It was way easier to get people on the Zoom call than it is on Google Meet.
I'm pretty sure they still haven't found out that that Zoom is no longer being used.
Oh, you think people are trying to join via Zoom right now?
Probably.
Oh, geez. Okay, I'm gonna post that to the classroom real quick then.
Oh, I thought we needed to go to this. Okay, that worked.
Hey, Ian, what's going on?
Not much. Just doing some really janky stuff over here. Trying to use USBs as basically disk drives over here.
What are you trying to do with the USB drive?
I'm trying to use them as a Windows partition because I don't seem to have another drive just sitting around because coronavirus kind of hit at a bad time here. Yeah, I wanted to test out an Unreal game partly, but that's kind of got thrown out. I don't have the storage. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm testing out a bunch of random cards.
What can you get? You don't have an external drive or upgrade to like a SSD or something?
No, I'm out of luck there.
Yeah, I wish I had gotten a bigger drive for my laptop because it keeps I keep having to delete stuff and it's really bad. Like Unreal's crashing and stuff because it uses the hard drive for virtual memory. So if you don't have, if it needs 13 gigabytes of virtual memory, basically it's using the hard drive as like a fake RAM. Okay, so if it runs out of RAM, just write some of it to the disk real quick. But if it needs 13 gigabytes and you only have 6 gigabytes left, then it'll crash. So I've been having that because I only have 256 gigabyte SSD, which is just so small. Because Windows is already like 80, and then I have Visual Studio on there, which is like 30 or something. So the project itself is like 32. So yeah, I keep having to deal with that.
I mean, I get your problem, but can't you just do some management with the paging files?
See, man, you're so smart. I learned about paging files yesterday, okay? So that's great. I Googled it. How do I fix this? And I saw that increase the file, but my paging file size is already at 13 gigabytes. So do I really need to go up higher than that?
Well, I mean, you can just cycle it off your hard drive so it doesn't crash anymore, at least.
I think because I do have a...
Get rid of page for that.
Yeah, it's not bad. I do have a storage drive that's another SSD that's 512 gigabytes that I just keep most of the actual files on. And so maybe I do that, although that one tends to fill up too. Hey, have you guys been doing it? So any projects from home? Ian, you mentioned you have like an Unreal project.
I mean, I've just kind of kept up on one I did for fun.
Yeah? Was it the one where you made everybody lag go crazy, or?
I mean, I think I can do this right here. Or wait. Oh wait, no, it's a standalone, so I have to. Yeah, this is a little bit jank trying to do this. But It's a little bit better than Zoom.
Hey Zeus, what about your project? Did you ever keep it on a flash drive, or is it living in our classroom right now?
I've been pretty much yeah, I haven't really worked on any projects. My laptop isn't strong enough to run Unreal, so I don't know. I've been using Roblox as an alternative.
Okay, that's good. What kind of laptop do you have?
I don't know. I just know that it's ancient.
Do you know what like the processor? Like, is it i3, an i5, i7, quad core?
I don't know at all.
Okay.
I'll probably look at that later on today.
Sometimes you can actually make Unreal work on a not so good computer. There's something called engine scalability settings. You can just lower, and then you can work on projects on a computer like that. I'm not assigning anything to you. I only want you guys to work on projects you want to work on, but just know that's an option. All right, guys, this could be like a cool, like casual, like Unreal fest. So feel free to just like interrupt with any questions you have at any time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to use something called dynamic material instances, which is how you can change the parameter on a material during game time. So like, let's say you have something that is metallic. So you have like a metallic material and you want to make it more metally over time, or you have a texture that forms the rust on it and you want to rust over time, but in the actual game. Or like an example would be like in my game, I have guys who sweat, right, and they work really, really hard. So if you sprint and stuff, I just up the metallicness and lower the roughness on their material, and it changes in game. So I'm going to show you all about that, the dynamic material instance today. Have any of you guys done anything with that, or ever looked at, seen a tutorial on that, or anything?
No one there.
No? Okay, cool. Then it'd be something new. What I'm going to show you how to do today is how to make a ghost, actually. Make a ghost that is really good mechanic for like quests and stuff, horror games, fantasy games, things like this. I actually got this idea from Eric in my second period. And he was like, how do I make a ghost in game that I can see from far away, but as soon as I go up to it, he disappears. So I'm going to show you how to make that, which is really, really cool. And he won't just like turn off. He'll actually fade away like a ghost, and it'll be based on how close you are to him or your distance. So I'm going to do this in a third-person character project. And I'm doing this in 422. So you know how we have like materials and then we have material instances, right? So we have, oh good, more people are joining the chat. This is awesome. Okay, cool. Hey guys. Hey. Live stream is up on YouTube, at least it should be. So if you go to YouTube, hashtag .wheregames. Then you can see my screen. All right, so I'm going to do just a third-person project. I'm going to name it Ghost, although maybe we'll call it, yeah, Ghost is good. Dynamic material instance, that's what we're learning. So there's really three fundamental different types of materials, right? There's the material, and I'll show you that, right, which you guys have done, the graph and everything, and all the lines you draw. And then there's a material instance. Remember what that is? That's when you right-click on the material you made in the content browser, you choose Create Material Instance, and it becomes like a version of the material, but there's no wires and no graph. You can only edit little variables that you made in the material. Okay, I have the live stream up. I'll show you this now. So look at the live stream. I'll make just a regular old material. I'm going to name this m_material, and I'm going to open it up. And this is what a material looks like. Materials, of course, we can give it a texture, okay, plug that in. Everything goes into base color, it determines what the thing looks like, right? And, oh, I have show engine content, I want that. Okay. So I can go in here and say, all right, this thing's gonna look like this gray brick. And of course, gotta wait. Sometimes hitting apply will make it go by a little bit faster. Oh, and there, and it looks okay, but then maybe you add a normal map, right, as well, and the normal map's gonna go into normal, and that's gonna give it that roughness, so it looks really realistic, like this. And then, of course, you wait for some time, and oh, now it looks way better. But what if I wanted to make it look like it was wet, right? Like it just recently rained, London horror game, something like that. Then I make a constant, right? This number that goes into roughness. Low roughness means it's going to be pretty smooth. So I turn roughness down, leave it at 0, hit apply. Again, gotta wait. And now it looks like this wet brick, right? Now, what if I convert this to a parameter, that's just another word for variable, and I name this texture, I'll name this color texture, because it's for base color. And then, for this one, we'll name this normal map, and then I hit apply, and I gotta wait, right? Now, let's go into our content browser and let's take a look at the second type of material. That's the material instance. And what we'll be learning about today is the third type, the dynamic material instance. So we have this material. Now let's say you want, oh, well, I want wet sandstone, or I want some, other thing that's based on this material. Some of you would go, oh, I'll just right click and duplicate. Don't do that, because we made this graph here. We can make this really complicated, have a bunch of settings for specular, metallic, position offset, ambient occlusion, all this stuff. But instead what we might do is right click, instead of hitting duplicate, we do create material instance. When you create material instance, you double click on that, no graph whatsoever. Instead, here's your material. You have all those parameters, right? Another word for variables that show up here. And what's great, material instance is instant, no loading, right? So I can change the roughness on this and it changes immediately. I could swap out to a totally different texture if I wanted to. Say, hey, now we're a cut stone on this, okay? And we're using the cut stone normal map. Completely different and very high roughness. Totally different material. And you could drag it on anything in your scene. And what's great is, again, you don't have to apply on these material instances. So usually what we do is we have one material that has a bunch of settings on it, but all the materials you see in your game, material instances. Now, what if you want to change it, again, like I said before, if you want to change that roughness setting in the game, during game time? Well, for that, you need the dynamic material instance. And you're going to use a little bit of blueprint magic to make that happen, okay? We're going to do that in order to make our ghost effect appear in our game. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I need a different NPC other than the third-person character that I am. So I'm going to duplicate my content browser, that third-person character, name it NPC. Here's our NPC. I'm going to drag NPC into our world right here. I'm going to open up his blueprint. And he doesn't need this code. You could leave it, you could delete it, doesn't really matter. I'm going to delete his camera. Now, he has a material. What we want the material that his body is made out of to be made of this special dynamic material instance that behaves depending on how far away the player character is. Before we do anything, we're going to leave this open, but let's actually create the material for which our dynamic material instance, our ghost effect material, will be based. Okay. So we're going to start in front of Unreal, right click, make material. I'm going to name it M_ghost material. Double click to open it up. All right. Any questions so far?
Yes.
Go for it.
Can you have the chat open so people can talk?
Yes, Trey. Is it not open by default? How do I make the chat open?
Okay, So like you look at the top right, and then there's like a little speech bubble like thing, kinda. You just click it. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy, definitely, and abide by our community guidelines. It says learn more. And okay, this is cool. So you guys can type in chat stuff to me. Yeah, I love that. Let's do that. How do I? I'm confused.
So you're on the meets like thing, right, where you can like see everybody.
Oh, you want meets chat? I thought you were talking about YouTube chat.
Oh no. I mean, well, yeah, have that open too because people are asking questions in there too.
Okay. All right. I see that there's a meets chat here.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's open.
Open.
Well, I see people talking in it.
Oh well, not anymore. Well, I said yo. So.
Yeah, you said yo. I see yo.
Alright, yeah.
Does that mean?
It means you can see it. If people like can't like speak, they can still type and you can see it.
Okay, I typed in daddy-o and it changed it to radio.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. So everybody can see that now. Now I'm going to. Okay, I'll put the text chat on here, and so I'll try and look at the text chat, but also the YouTube chat too. So, Penelope, where are you, Penelope? Where is YouTube? Hold on. Okay, Penelope Hart, Mr. Torres, I have a question. Do you think we're going to return to school? You want my answer to that? The answer is no. I don't think we're going to return to school.
Don't say that because I'm scared too. I'm scared that's actually going to happen.
You're a senior. You had no idea that your last day at school was your last day at school.
I didn't. I'm actually kind of sad because I kissed a girl the day before. The weekend, or the Friday.
That's how you contract coronavirus. You need to be careful about that.
I for sure got it now.
Like, it was worth it. I know. You like school, man. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm loving this no school thing, I'll just say. But that's because I've been working on my project the whole time. The whole time.
It's like I like talk to some people that I can't really talk to on time.
Hey, real quick before we get on with the rest of it, and guys, it's such a small group. Interrupt me with your questions anytime you want. I don't care. What are your other classes doing? Are they assigning you a bunch of homework and stuff, I imagine?
Kind of, sort of. My English class is, it has work there, but everybody's saying all of it's not mandatory. The only thing that's mandatory for me right now is my AP government test. That's about it.
Mm.
Some of my other classes, it's like homework. The only like class I'm having meetings for is just a club.
Mr. AP Calc is all right now, Mr.
AP Calc?
Mr. Ankler is battering us with an actual ram.
On your door. We do know where you live as teachers. That's funny. Yeah, I'm like, well, most of you guys don't, a lot of you guys don't have computers for this sort of thing, so what do I assign you? For those of you who do, though, man, this is a great opportunity to make a real project that you believe in. Make it cool. Without the distractions of school, getting up early, or any of that. So I hope some of you are, and if you are, you should be keeping me posted and emailing me screenshots of your projects. Trey, have you been making anything at home?
I have not. I've literally been, like, asleep.
Hey,
It's been government practice. That's about it.
We all needed that. I think so. But hey, maybe this would be a good time to jumpstart you onto something else. As you do this lesson too, or as you follow along, just think about like, oh, how would I apply this to something else? You know, dynamic material instance. Again, I used it to make people sweat in game. And I don't know if that's been done really before, but I'm like, hey, I can do that. In this case, we're learning how to make a ghost out of it. So, all right, I'm going to continue, but feel free to come back with any question or comment. We're right here. We're in Unreal. We're on the YouTube live stream. I'm going to start by setting up my material for the ghost material. First thing is ghost got to be translucent. So by default, materials like this, they're never see-through. That's why if you Click on an empty space here. You have all the settings on the left here. Material domain, blend mode. Change blend mode from opaque to translucent. What translucent means is that the thing can be see-through. So if you're doing windows in a game, a magnifying glass, a wine glass material, anything like that.
For example, my gems.
Your gems in Joshua's game, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yours are translucent with an emissive, right? And so what it does is translucent's going to change some of these materials. Look, we lost metallic, no more metallic. We lost specular, lost roughness. We kept emissive color. We gained opacity, right? So it changes how the whole thing works. Okay. Now I got to think. For right now, let's just do. You know what? Actually. So I'm sort of changing my mind now. Now, what I want to think, instead of doing material totally from scratch, because this guy has a texture to him, right? Looking at his skin, I want him to still look the way he looks. So what I'd rather do is take whatever material he currently has and transform it into a translucent material that has opacity parameter that I can change in game time. So we're going to do that with him. So we're not going to make it from scratch, because we could, but why don't we just take this material and modify it, right? So I'm going to open up his material. Okay, this is the material that they made, Epic Games made for this guy. Got a whole bunch of cray-cray going on. And I don't want to deal with the cray-cray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy over the important stuff and paste it into the material we're making from scratch, like this. Okay, paste. All right, mainly that being his texture map. And they do all this stuff. Wow, that's a lot of a lot. Do I want to deal with this? That is the question I'm asking myself. Yes? Is that the answer? I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Why can't he just be a blue ghost, blue guy? All right, he's going to be a blue guy. All right, I'm not going to deal with that. Never mind. Body color. We're going to make body color blue. And we can switch it over. When I did it for Eric, and I think I have a copy of the project, I think I used his actual texture, but that's fine. So right now I'm going over to mGhost material. I'm choosing a blue material. Opacity, let's make that a parameter, okay? So it is a constant, so I can type in constant, right? Constant just means a number. Now I want to right-click and convert it to a parameter. Parameters are, again, variables for materials. So I'm going to name this see-through. Ness. Plugging that into opacity, okay? I'm going to give it a default value of 0.5, hit apply. Okay, now you see how this thing is translucent, right? If I change see-through to 1, then it's going to be 100% seeable, like me, okay? Won't be able to see through it.
Like, too many people roam in their underwear. Wait,
what? Guys, what's going on over there?
Everyone besides me in this house likes to roam in their underwear.
Okay.
Why my camera's off?
Gotcha. Say, keep your camera off if that's the case. Oh, boy.
No problem.
Terrible. Okay. So I got my ghost material now. Let's apply this material to the NPC, just like this. So type in ghost material. Give it a second.
Game to watch this out anyway, and it's easy. Like, I don't know. Oh, so do you just put that material onto the...
No, well, right now I'm doing it so I can see the way he looks. It's going to be more complicated than that. We have to do blueprint stuff. The dynamic, you actually create, so dynamic material instance is weird. It's an asset that's created in game time. So you don't actually do anything in the content browser. It's a blueprint node you use for it. And you change all the parameters through blueprints. So we're going to have to do that on begin play and stuff. But for right now, I just want to see, okay, does he look good just as like a blue guy? You know? And again, if I really wanted to, I guess I could go in here and figure this out. I could say, okay, so they're using this really weird matte texture, and then they're doing a bunch of functions on it to make it look finally this way. It seems so unnecessary. Let's see if that guy's done yet. Now it's taking a little bit of time. Translucent materials are a little bit more costly, so it'll take a little bit more time.
Hey, Mr. Torres.
No.
Somebody asked about making a dynamic weather system. You think you could like show us how to do that? I don't know.
Totally. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that next time or today, even if you guys want to stay on for that. Dynamic weather. So when you say dynamic weather, who asked that? Where did they ask that?
They asked it in the stream chat.
Oh, in the YouTube? Yeah, that reminds me. Can we finally do the dynamic weather system? Do you mean like day-night cycle? Or do you mean like day-night cycle mixed with like clouds and rain and things like that?
That'd be kind of cool. Like,
that'd be awesome. Yeah, we can definitely do that. We can do that today if you want. All right. Ooh, jeez. Why does he look so bad? I think that's gonna fix it. All right, it's looking okay. I'm not super happy with the way it looks right now.
oh no, did they remove from the regional physics tuner allowance?
Okay, so clouds and rain and stuff. Yeah, we could do that. That's going to be particles and stuff. What I would do, is I was doing a day-night cycle. I would do the day-night cycle the way I would normally do it, which would be like on a timeline. And you, well, I'll show you how to do that. But you basically set the rotation of the sun or update the sun's position, and you refresh the sky material. And then it goes from day to night and stuff. As far as like the rain and things, it'll be a dynamic material instance we're gonna learn today for the sky material, because there's a parameter in that material called cloud opacity, okay? The higher the number in cloud opacity, the more cloudy it is. And if you set that to 100% cloud, it looks like a cloudy day. So it'd be perfect for your raining situation. Right now, by default, if you're looking like at your sky sphere blueprint, okay, this guy looks awful. I gotta figure out what to do with this guy. But if you look at I'll just show you real quick, the sky right now, I have this cloud opacity thing. As it goes up, it gets really, really cloudy. Now I want to darken it a little bit, but that's a dynamic material instance, which is why I'm able to change it here in the editor like that. So if it was a cloudy day, I would do that. I would make in enum a list of all the different weather types. So I'd have sunny, rainy, cloud, no rain, thunderstorm, and other stuff. And what I would do is I would get the particles in here, and I'll show you where you can find those type of particles for rain, snow, things like that. And I'd actually attach those to the player character, since the third person character in the weather system is the person that's going around everywhere. And whenever it's going to be constantly asking your weather system, hey, what's the enum? What's the weather right now? If it's cloudy, if it's rainy, activate the rain particle that's living on our third-person character, and it's going to start raining. So the weather will always kind of follow you around. And the reason you want to do it like that rather than have the whole world be rained on is because those particles can be very expensive. And they'll make your game lag, especially if there's some bunch of rain particles, working 3 miles away from you where the player can't even see you. There's no point in doing that, right? So that's how we do that. But I'll show you guys how to do that from a practical perspective. Yeah, this ghost material thing I'm not very happy with. So I'm going to change this from there's a slightly different translucent type of material. There's one called translucent. There's one called masked. I'm going to go to masked and see if that works. So I changed the blend mode to mask and plug see-throughness into opacity mask. Opacity goes away. Opacity mask shows up. And we see this looks good. Also, if this doesn't look good, what I'm also going to do is check mark two-sided. The reason I didn't think it looked good is it looked like you could see through him even though you weren't supposed. Okay, this looks better, right? So this is looking more solid, but we still have this see-through amount. Now if I were to change this 0.8, hopefully it should be a little bit ghost-like. So we're going to see.
I feel like I needed this.
Needed what?
It's I don't know. I guess it's just the interaction where I'm being deprived of social interaction.
Right? Cabin fever. You've been hanging out with me, myself, and I this whole time. And now look at the message. I just saw the message in Classroom right now. What's up, Trayvon? What's everyone eating for breakfast? I'm eating a Starbucks blueberry muffin. The source of the healthy source of coronavirus, probably, because they only wear gloves half the time whenever I go there. I'm like, really?
You got corona for real.
All right, guys. Man, is it not see-through? I feel like I'm rusty this morning. I'm like a rusty nail. Okay, all right. Last time, translucent. We're going back to translucent. Two-sided. I'm hitting apply. It's getting ridiculous now. So we're back to opacity, but check mark two-sided. We're going to get to the cool part with the blueprint soon. It needs to look decent to start with. Okay. Yeah, does anybody think that we are going to come back?
Maybe. I highly doubt it though, because the longer that we out of school, the more cases that we get is what it seems like, and they keep delaying going back to school. So it's at some point, the second that we do go back, it's just gonna be worse for everyone because now a bunch of kids are out. But I don't know. I feel like maybe this is gonna be the school year, and I'm gonna get emailed the freaking diploma.
Yeah.
Dude, one of a kind.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'd like to get my current version of the game from my computer.
How far are you from it?
I want to get my project off those computers. Whatever though.
All right, I think I figured it out. So I copied over all this junk from the material and I pasted it in here, and I actually got the actual guy's material to look decent. So I think we're good. I think he's gonna actually look like the way he's supposed to look, but he will turn see-through. So that'll be good. Yeah, we got delayed to April 30th, right?
I want my project. I want my project.
Penelope Hart is crying. I hope we do go back. I want to graduate on stage, not on a computer.
I feel like within the next 30 days we're gonna be in an apocalyptic state in some sort.
Totally. It's very apocalyptic.
Already got their school canceled for the rest of the year.
Really,
Yep, the rest
Like,
of the year.
2020.
Yeah, that's sucky.
Okay, so once this shader is done compiling, I think we're going to be good. I'm going to move on with the coding part, but he's going to look like the actual guy he's supposed to look like. He's going to look like the UE4 mannequin, except now he's a translucent material, and he has that parameter called see-throughness, right? When see-throughness is at 1.0, you can totally see him. If he's at 0, then he's not. Ooh, you know what we should also do? I've been thinking about this. I want to show you guys how to make a virus in a game. Very fitting. Okay, so here's how he looks when he's like partially see-through, right? Now he'll be totally solid see-through to begin with. So I'm going to set this to default value of 1, which means it's going to look like the normal Unreal Engine character. Here, I'm going to go to Event Graph for NPC. On Begin Play, I'm going to look up Begin Play. We're going to do the Create Dynamic Material Instance, right? There's materials, there's material instances, and there's dynamic material instances. The only type of material that can change at runtime, change in the game. So it looks like this. Dragging off Begin Play, you have to do a node called Create Dynamic Material Instance. Okay? Now, when you create dynamic material instance, it needs to know, well, what is it an instance of? What's the parent material that we're basing it off of? That goes here. So it's going to be this ghost material that we made, right? With all these parameters. All right, we'll come back to that. Let's see. Let's go here. So we're going to choose the ghost material that we made. And we're going to promote it to a variable. Name that variable ghost material. That means that we can now access it anytime we need to do things and change things about it, which we're going to want to do at some point. Create dynamic material instance, ghost material. And then we want to set the material being used on the mesh to this newly created ghost material. So this is the part that's easy to forget. You're like, oh, I did this part. But if you don't set it to be using the new dynamic material instance, it's just going to be using the old material. So Begin Play, create material instance, store it as a variable so we can use it later, and set the mesh as material to that. And that happens all in Begin Play. Now, what we can do is we can ask, do event tick, we can ask what the distance that our player is to this this NPC and fade them away depending on that. So what I'm going to do is on event tick, we're going to, let's see, get player character. I don't even think I need to cast. I think that's all I need to do. Get player. I don't think we need to cast. It doesn't matter what third person character, whether it's third person character or not. We're going to use this great node called get distance to. Get distance to literally gets the distance between two things. So let's other actor. Let's see. Target will be self. Other actor will be the player character. This spits out a number depending on the distance. And what we want to do is we want our guy to be totally seeable up until the player gets really, really close to him. So this number is going to be in terms of centimeters. So most likely, like right now, this guy is probably about 1,000 units away from this guy. He's 1,000 centimeters away. So let's say that we don't start fading him out until he gets like really close, like maybe right over here, like within 500 centimeters. And by the time he goes all the way, within 100 or two, the guy has disappeared, gone, like a ghost, like a phantom, right? So I'm going to go back here, event tick. In order to figure out like how close you are and stuff, you could do this thing called map something in RAM. How is this RAM not crying right now? What internet providers does this do that? So Just reading comments. So I'm going to do something called map to range. So right now we do map to range. I might have to drag it off of this. Map to range. Map range. Map range clamped is what I want to do. So map range clamped as all of these numbers. It's really useful because you can, our see-throughness is only based on being between 0 and 1, right? Doesn't matter if you set the see-throughness to 2, 10, 50, 100, 50,000. Once it hits 1, the guy is fully seeable. Once it hits 0, he's completely vanished. Doesn't matter how much lower you go than that. So it's only number between 0 and 1. But how far away or distance from the guy is in centimeters. We could be 10,000 units away. We could be 100 units away, right? So we want to map those big numbers to the small numbers. Okay, so we're going to do like this. So the out range, what we want this map range to spit out is a number between 0 and 1, because this number we spit out is going to be what's going to be set directly as that see-through amount. So for out range A, leave it at 0. Out range B, set it as 1. So it's going to we're going to spit out a number between 0 and 1, so some decimal. Now, what is it going to actually map? What's the range going to be? Now, I say what we should do. Now, let me think about this. Get distance 2. You know, I want this backwards, actually. So out range A should be 1, and B should be 0. And in range A is where we want to start. Oh, by the way, we don't want this clamped. There's 2 types of ranges. We wouldn't want it clamped. The difference is clamped is going to force the number into something. Actually, does it matter? You know what? Let's try it the original way, and if we get weird results, we'll see. But clamp's going to force a number in there, whereas unclamp says it doesn't matter if it's outside of the range, whatever. Yeah, we'll leave it clamped right now. In range, I said within 500 units, we want to say, okay, start fading. But if you're more than that, don't do anything. So I'll say in range 500, in range B 100. What that means is the guy is totally seeable up until we're 500 units. As soon as we cross in that 500 unit range, he starts to disappear, until we're 100 units, because I put that number there, and then he disappears fully, because that's when the outrange will be 0. So it's mapping the A to this, the B to that. Okay. Now, how do we actually get that parameter to change? Well, you're going to grab your variable, get ghost material, and you're going to do a node called this. This is what you do for dynamic material instances. Set parameter value, and there's 3 types depending on what you're changing. There's texture parameter, you figure out what that does. There's vector parameter, remember, it's a color, vector. And then there's scalar parameter, which is used for constants. We're using a scalar parameter, so set scalar parameter. Now, it needs the name of the parameter. That's the name that we named this thing. I named it see-throughness, exactly this with a space in there. So I'm gonna copy that text, that's the name of it, see-throughness. I'm gonna paste that into parameter name. As long as it's spelled correctly, whatever value we plug into this thing as value is what's going to be updated on this dynamic material instance at runtime. So I'm going to plug this into there. Event tick is going to go into there. So we're always asking, hey, what's the distance? And we're going to see if that works. Okay. Now, real quick, what I'm going to say is I'm not happy with the way that the guy looks right now, because that's technically at see-throughness 100%, which doesn't look good at all. So I'm not sure why I wasn't able to get this to work just yet. Like I said, I did it before. It might have to do with the fact that 2-sided is checked, but let's at least see if we go up to the guy, if something happens and he starts to sort of disappear. We'll see. Okay, so there he is. Hit play. Now I'm going to start to move over to the guy. And he disappeared. You see that?
Whoa.
Now, there's a couple things you want to do. Now, he's got this like dot in the middle of his chest. You're like, what is that floating dot? The reason he has that is if you go to, he actually has two materials. His material element 0 is the one we're changing, and then element 1. So all I want to do is change that as well to ghost material. And I want to make sure that when I go back here and I set the material, see where I said set material for the mesh? Might not pay attention to this, but there's a thing called elemental index 0. Well, that means it's setting the just element material number 0. But this guy has more than one material. So what I want to do is copy and paste that and make sure I set that other material, that center of his chest material, the same thing. That way it disappears with everything else. And that'll work like that. So now if I hit play, and by the way, let's change the range a little bit. I want to disappear a little bit farther back, so let's set the out range of B to 300. So that means he's going to be totally gone by the time we get 300 units in front of him. And let's make him start disappearing 800 units away. Okay, so I'm changing that. Now I'm going to go up to the guy. It's like, hey, there's a man over there, right? This is great for like quests and stuff and following a guy through like, you know, forest or something. Go up to him, go up to him, go up to him, and he's gone. Oh, why didn't his element? Oh, see, look at on his material, I didn't actually put anything for the material. So I just want to plug that same thing in there. Now his chest will disappear too. And he's gone. Now there's some couple just game feature things you need to make sure you think about. His collision's still there, so if I keep walking towards him, I actually bump into something invisible. So we don't want that. So what we should also be doing is on this event tick, we could be asking, hey, if the get distance to is less than or equal to, put a branch. And we're going to ask less than or equal to 300, because that's the moment he disappears. Then I'm going to set collision. And that's not what I want to set. To no collision. Let's see if that works. Yep. That's interesting. So my camera, he's no collision, but my camera still reacts to him being there for some reason. You could also do something like destroy after, too. You could be like, okay, after you're that close, you just destroy the guy from the game. And that'll actually cause him to disappear as well. And he won't come back that way, which is good. Now he's gone. So that's how you do like a ghost like that. Let me show you how I use the material instance for other things. For example, I talked about the sweat effect, right? I'll show you that.
Hop on that, Jovan. Stuff's fire.
Where's the gameplay, Mr. Torres?
Yeah, where's the gameplay?
I'll show you some gameplay. Yeah, I was going to. It's sort of a bummer. Last Friday, when we did our first meeting, some of you were there, some of you weren't. I was going to ask, how many people have projects in the classroom that you want, that you were working on, that you really want, and I was going to go get them. And then Thursday, the day before we did that meeting, we announced the whole thing where no one's allowed on campus, not even principal, or just the principal or something. And so I don't know when or if they're going to lift that, but if they do, that's an option for you guys. If you have something that you didn't back up, I'll go get it for you and put it on, Google Drive or something.
Freaking scared. I feel like the world is ending. Like actually, we amassed 1 million cases across the world.
Across the world, yeah. I saw that. Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago it was so little. In America, it was like 1,000, and now we're at the hundreds of thousands. It's crazy.
We're at 250,000 people infected.
It's
How
really.
bad that is.
Oh my god.
Not really.
That's terrible. How do you quarantine 250,000 people? That's larger. It's like a Pyongyang stadium and a half. Stadium holds 150,000 people. Think about that, man. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Okay, guys, let's talk about gameplay and turn it into a bit of a lesson. So first of all, well, there's like 3 categories. There's bugs, there's features, and then there are what I call set dressing. Set dressing
and accidental features.
And accidental features. Yeah. Yeah, actually, I have a really good example of an accidental feature. I'll show you. So set dressing is a thing that I've been trying to save kind of for last. It's I'd really like to have this. It's going to look really good. It's going to enhance the feeling and the detail of the game, but is it playable? Like the dynamic material instance of the guy sweating, there's nothing playable about that. You cannot play sweat. It really probably shouldn't have been developed when I was developing it, since I should have been focusing on gameplay systems. But sometimes you get really excited about something, and so you go, I want to do this thing. So you're going to see a couple different things that I've added since we've been in quarantine. Actually, you see a lot, because a lot's been done. Some of it, I want you to sort of categorize in your mind, be like, oh, that's set dressing, which means it's, the least on the priority list. Oh, that's a gameplay feature that's needed. That's bug fixing. That's probably the highest thing that's needed. So, so this is on the live stream, right? So one thing you'll see, this is sort of set dressing / gameplay feature. I needed the player to know when he selected something. So I've got these big old arrows that go here. Now what's actually funny is you might think that this is a timeline or something that's causing this thing to go on, but I haven't hit play right now yet. We're in the editor, so no, it can't be a timeline. So timelines only work during the game. It's actually the material that's moving this up and down over time. I had to do that for performance reasons, because using a timeline over a bunch of NPCs is a bad idea. So the material itself moves, and it's just a regular opaque material, but you have this node called a world position offset, and if you plug in this node called time, and I multiply it by a parameter I call distance, I use this thing called sine, which kind of just does this kind of thing and stuff. So every 1 second, rise a number like this, multiply it by something called distance, a parameter, which is at 0 by default, which is why it doesn't move at all. But in my material instance, I can say, hey, the distance is 50 right now. And if I want to change it to 400, okay, it's going to travel a bigger distance, right? So anyway, those are actually off by default. So I'm going to hit play right now. I'm going to hit play. You won't see those unless you click on somebody. So I click on a guy, this guy. Okay, now he's selected. What's going on with that? So that was added. The big thing that's added is getting their AI to work intelligently. So like they're all moving around and stuff. A couple guys are hanging out because I don't want them moving around. There was a big bug that I was dealing with where I was basically, if I sped up the world like this, they would all start ganging up around the same spot and getting stuck because they're all blocking each other. They're basically clotting. I couldn't figure out what's happening. I finally fixed it. I use AI move to that I know, but I have this like complex custom event called go to location that uses a bunch of AI move tos. And basically what it's doing is it's casting to say, hey, what are you actually moving to? Is it a building? All right, then what is it supposed to do with that building? Oh, it's the well. Then he's supposed to play the animation where he drinks the water and it lands. It's supposed to up his thirst variable. Oh, it's not the well. It's somewhere else. All right, cast that thing. Is it this thing? So what I had to do is I had to make basically a custom event to check for on successfully arrived. And in that event, we say, all right, you arrived, cool. Do the thing you're supposed to do, and now you're allowed to go look for another location to go to. And then if the on failed was getting triggered, which is very rare, which is what was causing all the clotting where they get stuck. Right now they're good. Nobody's getting stuck. They're all doing their thing. Um, uh, So I had to make an on failed event. If they fail to get the location for some reason, we need to evaluate the next location and go somewhere else. And so a lot of the code went into getting them to figure out where to go. So if I click on like one of these guys, let's see, click on this guy. Okay, so he's unemployed, but he's going to the general market. He's hungry. This guy is a farmer, so he's going to the farm. Another thing is they disappear when they go to the place that they work at, and then they speed this up and he's done working there. Ignore the way it looks. Looks all garbage. I don't care about that right now. When he's told to leave, right? He spawns back in the world. That's another performance thing. So one thing that I did that was really important is I got my frame rate back up. So I was having terrible frame rate issues, and now it plays like butter. Right now it's a little bit janky. That's because I have two instances of Unreal open. But we have those things. Let's take a look at.
Your widgets are way more polished now.
Yeah, the widgets are way more polished. Widgets probably the hardest thing I've ever done. In fact, let me show you a widget thing I did this week that's pretty polished. So this widget up here, by the way, this is for me. This is for me to quick select buildings for testing. So the player won't ever see that. So but here's all the widgets and stuff. Something I added this week to widgets is you look at the top left, okay? Top left, you see money, you see the number of people in your world, you see their happiness. Well, their actual happiness is calculated by like a bunch of things. And you only know those things if you click on the guy. And granted, these widgets can be kind of proof. But you can see he has health, he has hunger, he has thirst, he has a sense of awe or beauty, he has a sense of fear. He has a sense of religious satisfaction or spiritual well-being. You see them all kneeling to Pharaoh as Pharaoh walks by. It's another big feature. Um, so, uh, what, uh, what what causes happiness is the sum of all of these things. You know, if they're really afraid of you, they're more obedient, but they're not as happy, and that sort of thing. Well, when you just look up here in the top left, you see, oh, it's 43% happiness. What does that mean? So now widget animation happens. If I hover over it, it opens up. So I hover over this, you see all these other things. If I click, it'll pin that there, and now I just leave it up as part of my HUD. But you see, it's not part of the default HUD because it's too cluttered. And the one thing is that is very important is I don't want this to be like a lot of RTS games that I've seen where it's a whole learning curve. I want it to feel like you know to play it, even if you've never played it before. Even without a tutorial, it just feels natural. And that's why also you hover over things and get tooltips. Anyway, I click on this, and now I can pin that, and I can see what the average health in the city is, the average hunger, the average thirst, the average exhaustion, average fear, average religious satisfaction, average awe. So all those things get calculated into this. Same thing for our population. So if I hover over the population one, you have that animation. So I'll do that again. You just nifty animation. It's all done in the widget animations. And again, I can pin that there. And the other cool thing about that is I have the social distribution. If you hover over these, it'll show you who belongs to these categories using those arrows. So right now I'm hovering over lower class. Everyone in the lower class has an arrow above their head right now. Hover over middle class, every middle class citizen has an arrow above their head. So all of that sort of thing. I don't have any slaves because I don't have slavery enabled, so nothing hovers over that. Same thing with employment, and you can see the percent there. Right now, there's 58% employment. I hover over it. All those people are employed. Hover over the unemployed people. 42% of them are unemployed. These are all the bums in the world. So maybe I go in here and I'm going to assassinate them because he's a bum. So now that's another feature. I can click this little assassinate button and watch. See these guards in the background? Now the animation's a little jankily, but see there's a guy coming for this guy with a skull above him. Now watch what's going to happen. They're going to kill this guy. Come on, guys. Oh, and he's dead. All right. So now he's been killed. So maybe as Pharaoh, what I want to do is kill like bums who don't have a job, and then I have less unemployment, right? That's one way to solve it. So cool, it's just killed that guy. Look, he died standing up. It's okay. It's just a fast mummification process. Goes around doing his stuff. I can see how people are homeless. Everyone is homeless, 100% homelessness, because they don't have any houses. So then I would need to build a house, that sort of thing. Um, Oh, also another thing I did, I'm gonna unpin these. This seemed really useful, but now you have just a list of all the buildings in your world, and you can click on it, and it'll take you to that building. That wasn't a thing before, and it wasn't a thing that I even think I needed because I don't see it in other games. Because you can just go up to the building, click on it, get all its info, say, oh, who works here? Oh, this guy works here. Click on that guy, it takes you to him. But having a whole list that searches the world for everything allows you to jump right to it and gives you, its basic stats. Really, really useful. This sort of deal. Let's take a look at the dynamic material instance real quick. All right, dynamic material instance, I was talking about sweating. So this is kind of the theme of the lesson today. We did that. So if left shift is pressed, so that means we're sprinting, then I want his sweat to go up. Guy gets sweaty. In fact, let me show what that looks like in game. So this is for when you jump into Pharaoh mode. So I click on that. Now I'm Pharaoh, okay? Controlling it. And I'm going to sprint real quick. Watch his back. It's getting shinier, shinier, shinier. More shiny. It's even getting like tanner, right? And now he's all sweaty. Just a little detail like that, and then it'll slowly go away. So what I do is on left shift, I have a timeline, and the timeline updates. You get it. You guessed it. A set scalar parameter value. The exact same node that we just did in our ghost material. In ghost material, the parameter name was see-throughness, and the material for our Pharaoh guy is called metallic. As his metallic material goes up, then he's set. And of course, you'll find that on begin play, I do the create dynamic material instance. I base it off of this material, the material being used for people's skin. I store it as a variable. I set the material of the mesh. Remember, you can't forget that part. And that's that. So then I use a timeline to drive that value up over time. So that's that. Ian mentioned something about accidental features. So an accidental feature I did that I love is you read books in games. So it's something that I developed in another project just for fun. And then I thought, well, what if I migrate that code over? And I think it's really cool. So now if I see like this papyrus scroll right here, I'll click on that and it'll take me right to it, and I can actually read a book in game. And what's cool is I'm just gonna copy the text of a bunch of actual ancient Egyptian books, put that in the game. We'll hit next. They're in hieroglyphics at first. All you gotta do is hover your mouse over, and it fades in. Hit next, fade, right? And then you can leave. So you can read books from city building mode or from Pharaoh mode himself, just like this. So I'm gonna go over here. Also, another thing I did this yesterday, now it seems pretty simple. You can click on Pharaoh and you can right click to direct them places as well. So you can do that, you can direct him in that way, or you can actually just inhabit him, possess him. So I go over to this book, okay, it's a different book, I can read it from him as well. They can have images in there. Again, you just hover over the hieroglyphs right there. And just something that was an accidental feature that I had no plan of ever intending of putting in the game, but I really, really liked it. And then there's a lot of like back end stuff. For example, you see all those NPCs moving around. Why are they going where they're going? Why is the one guy going to the well and the other guy's going to the location where they get food from? Well, this was the process here. So they have this event that is basically a tick event called timer, called Npc Schedule. And they're either working or they're seeking fulfillment of their needs. So all those needs, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they need rest, things like that. They'll seek those out when this gets switched to seeking fulfillment of needs. Otherwise, they're working. and I made these functions that evaluate different things. So this function makes sure NPC is checking to be assigned to an available place of work and make their work the objective. This is running so that those unemployed people, as soon as a job opens up, they get assigned a job. So double click, you see what's going on with the functions here, kind of. The really difficult function for me, and this was solved a couple weeks ago, was this right here. Determine the need and make it the objective. Because there's so many variables that the player has to do, has to fulfill. Like if he'll die if he doesn't fulfill his thirst variable. The same thing with his hunger. So which one's lower right now? Which one needs more attention? That sort of thing. That's what happens in this function, and the function spits out an objective, and then we do that advanced go to location event that I was talking about before, where we have all the AI move tos and we cast constantly. So if I double click on determine a need, make it the objective, this is the miracle code here. So this was, some of this is unused because it was just such an experiment, but I have all this stuff asking if something's less than a threshold. There's some stuff in there to randomize stuff. Spits out the number, the place to go to. If it doesn't meet their criteria, it goes to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, until finally, if he's fulfilled everybody, what do? Just send him to a random NPC. So he just talks to another citizen in the world, which is kind of cool. So this is the miracle function for getting them to kind of work in a believable way. Go to location, this stuff, right? This is where basically instead of doing AI move to get people from place to place, I want to ask them like, hey, well, where are you going? Are you going to a building? If so, ask that building for its various locations. Like I have this function here called determine the building's front door, which waypoint to go to, and it's going to spit out the location for that. The reason I did that is so that I can make it so that, for example, you got this building here. Workers might go through, who work here, go to the front entrance, but the people picking up resources can go to a different entrance. And if Pharaoh's going there to yell at a bunch of people, he might stand out front here. So how do you tell them to go to the different locations? That's what these little icons here are for. And that's what's filtered out in those go-to locations. So if I wanted to click on this and move where the people dropping off resources are supposed to go to, I would simply go to here, and this is a resource drop off, and now I'd move this over here, and now anybody with a resource is going to go there instead of the front door. So little things like that. The other thing you're seeing is this material here that's sort of like a square that's spreading out. This is to show the perimeter of a building, and it shows up when you select something. This is in the form of a decal material. This is also something that I did this week, and it looks like that. And that was a bit tricky to get through. There's a little virus overlay on it, and it's just again to let people know, player knows that he has something selected. Other things, trying to work on getting to show the irrigability of like the land. So we click on this, shows how fertile it is, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's kind of the gist. I'm sure there's a lot more, but that's sort of that stuff. Any questions? That was a lot.
This was a lot. I don't have any questions. I don't think. Actually, no. Yes. So with the you said you had a custom you did with a bunch of like AI boosters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why not just use like? Aren't you able to use the arrays as well? Or no? Or arrays just like nah? Does that not work?
You're obsessed with arrays.
I'm sorry. I love arrays.
I know you do. Well, I use plenty of arrays, believe me. Well, look, like whenever I'm getting like my citizens and stuff, or I'm getting the app, for example, like the average happiness, what do I do with that? I get the array called all the NPCs in the world. And actually, by the way, and then I ask for its attributes. Say, hey, what's your happiness? I say, okay, for each loop, what's the next guy's happiness? What's the next guy's happiness? And I'm adding that to a variable, and they divide it by the total length of that array, and that's how you get the average of something. So that's how I get those average attributes. So using arrays a lot. Love arrays. And by the way, just as an aside, I don't do get all actors of class node for that. And the reason is get all actors of class The reason is this. When I'm asking for like what's the average happiness, what's the average this all up here in the top left, that's on a binding, a widget binding, and widget bindings are on tick. People don't realize that those are being ticked every frame. Get all actors of class is a very expensive blueprint function. You don't want to use it ever in any tick situation. It's going to make your game lag, and the reason is it's got to search the whole world for this list. Yeah, sure, it spits out an array, but there are better ways to do it. So how do I get all the list of the NPCs in the world? Do it like this. I have my main character, which is called city building character. That's the character that's always flying around the world. He's always in the game, so let's store all my variables on him, generally speaking. What all the NPCs do, instead of having to do a get all actors of class, in order to bind that to the widget, I'm going to answer your question about go to location in a second. But instead of doing get all actors of class, which would be very bad for performance, on begin play of my NPCs, I get my city building character and I say, hey, add me to city building characters array called list of NPCs on begin play. So what I actually bind, instead of doing get all actors of class, I just ask the city building character, hey, what's your list of NPCs? And that's always going to be accurate because as soon as a new NPC is introduced into the world or spawned, his begin play says, hey, city building character, remember me? Add me to your array. As soon as somebody dies, hey, city building character, remove me from your array. So yes, I'm using arrays all the time. I'm avoiding get all actors of class when I can. All right, on to your actual question. Go to location. Here we're taking a look at the nodes. So you were like, can't you use an array? So I think you mean like can't you use an array? I've gone through a lot of arrays right now in order to get to this point. So all this code leading up to it is basically filtering. Like for example, determine a need that I showed you. This one right here says find a religious building. This one says find a building that meets food. This one, find a building that meets thirst. If you go into here, look what it's doing. You got your array, right? List of buildings in the city, all the buildings, and it goes through it. So what happens is by the time you get to my custom event called go to location, the actual location this NPC is going to go to has already been decided. He's now sure, okay, I'm going to that well at this side of the map, right? Whatever. There might be many wells, but it's already been decided. So the arrays happened, but we didn't decide. We're not calling go to location until we go to location we're going to, right? And then once we do that, we promote it to a variable so it can be used later. All this sort of thing. We then can cast a hair going to building. If so, go to determine what door you should be using, right? If you're Pharaoh, okay, use the Pharaoh door. If you're a resource gatherer, use the resource. If you work here, use the other one, that sort of thing. Then that determines the exact part of that building you should go to. And then we call AI move to. On fail, this is what I added yesterday that solved my clotting problem. The NPC's clotting one location. On success, I trigger something called arrived at destination. And this, again, does a whole bunch of stuff with casting. And basically what it's saying is like, hey, did you arrive at something with building behavior? If that's true, call these events that we need happening. Oh, by the way, the thing that you went to, is that objective, that place you went to, the same place as your work? And are you in working mode? Oh, if that's true, you just arrived at work. Say arrived at work. That way I'm able to know, hey, did the NPC actually show up at work or not? Just with the basic AI move to, I don't get that kind of detail that I need. And then again, too, with the AI move to, where do you go? Go to location. I'm also, again, what if it's not a BP building that he's going to? That's okay. Maybe he's going to a building under construction. Those are for all the buildings that are being built. Well, okay, if he's going to a building under construction, ask him, is he a worker? Is he something else, right? What if it's not that? What if it's some other actor? So I'm able to keep filtering all the way down to the last case scenario where it's like, hey, I don't know what you're going to. Don't even cast to it. Just go to that actor. And as soon as you get there, call on arrived. Also, just a little bit of another trick that I do in order to make it so that I can have a lot of NPCs doing this, because AI move to is pretty expensive too in games. It's you got to think it's telling to go there, and if something gets in the way, he's gonna move around it. You have a bunch of actors doing this. It's a lot. I do a little trick, which if you look, let me hit play, and then we'll go take a look at the code as it's being played. So I'm gonna hit play. You see NPCs are moving around, right? I'm gonna leave that playing, but I'm gonna go over to our NPC behavior, and what I can do is I can choose debug filter here, and I can actually pick an NPC, and I can see what's happening. Now look at this. That guy's a teamster. Let's see. Let's go. Okay. See how this is being ticked? So it's always running. That's expensive. But look, it's being stopped by something. So nothing's actually being executed. Well, why? I'm asking a question. I'm saying, hey, is this variable called current objective valid? That means, is there something inside of current objective? If it's not valid, determine an objective and it gets sent. Which means the second that this is sent, which is going to happen just on one frame, now his valid's going to fire every time, and he's not going to continue that code. So once a location is determined, he gets sent to it, the code gets executed on one frame, and then it's not looping all the time. So I use this special variable called current objective, and basically what I do, I use it like a do once, but it's more clever than a do once, because all I say is, hey, if your objective is real, if you have a current objective, don't do any more code until you get there. Once you get there and on arrived is executed, or on fail, somehow you don't get there, clear that current objective. And what this is asking on tick is currently asking, hey, does that current objective have anything in it? The second it has something in it, or the second doesn't have anything in it, so it's been cleared, run all of this code and ask for a new objective. And then it spits out that objective, it gets set again, and then all of a sudden, never gets executed until the next time it gets cleared. This is one of those little tricks where you can have an event that's being ticked all the time using expensive functions, but then you stop it. So anyway, that evaluation is only run, on one frame, once every, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, depending on where the NPC is actually trying to get to. So that was a long answer, and I love hearing myself talk, believe me. But any other questions, comments, things that you learned?
I learned how to use arrays without actually using arrays, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So, anybody else learn anything?
I'm getting a heart attack over here. I went to go edit the Steam cache and it didn't work and it crashed a project. And then I opened up another project which crashed also. And now all three projects are open. Not one. Because Unreal doesn't tell you that it's actually still filming the Steam cache. I thought it just broke the project. It doesn't. It works. It just takes an hour and a half.
My boys have skin problems.
Now I have 6 cores, all 100% on Unreal Engine. Why?
God.
This is